Hello there, my name's Brian Keane. I'm sought after as a franchise business mentor. I've been franchising for over 30 years, and during that time I've seen clients that I've had grow their businesses by a total of over $3 billion worth of value and see the number of outlets they have increase by nearly 7,000. I'm the author of Australia's only franchise training program. My background is that I started as a quantity surveyor in London. I emigrated to Africa, spent 10 years there and ran my own construction business and in other companies I started. I arrived in Australia in 1975, and after a short period in the building industry when it became very, very difficult to survive, we had a real slump in the early 1980s, I started franchising. I joined a group called Bedshed. I was about the 5th or 6th franchisee very early on. It was a fairly new concept in those days, and I had 7 stores in 5 years. So I was a bit of a serial franchisee, and I really enjoyed it and did well. I then started doing franchise broking, helping people buy and sell franchises, both working for franchisors and helping franchisees sell their franchises. Joined by a colleague, and we founded a business called the Franchise Alliance. We were then asked by the odd client to actually help them convert their business into a franchise. We ended up as a franchise, essentially partnership at the Franchise Alliance with 3 of us. We expanded the operation nationally, so we had 5 outlets around the country, each of those franchised. And in seeing the way lots of different franchise businesses operate, because we worked with many of the large national franchise groups, we were able to define the way to really do it, we thought, perfectly. So we established 6 of our own franchise groups, and over a 5-year period grew those to about 120 outlets. Worked with people like Jim's Mowing, seen Jim grow by multiple sizes in the last 20 odd years, now worth probably $100 million. Cash Converters started in Perth, now worth probably $450 million, something of that nature. Eagle Boys Pizza, worked with them, helping them set up in Western Australia, and their value recently was somewhere around the 35 million, I believe. We worked with a local, then small, car service group called Automasters, and they're probably worth around the 20 million I would expect today with their 35 or 37 outlets. And we found the expense reduction analysts, a consulting business, probably worth around 150 million, and now operates in 27 countries. Franchising gave me the opportunity to grow my wealth and to indulge in my enjoyment of motor cars, vintage Alfa Romeos, and to support my wife Prue, who has her own business, as well as working as an absolutely key member of my team. And she spends a lot of time travelling internationally to garden and flower shows and so forth, because she runs her own websites and she's an author writing in that field. But it wasn't always like that. I started off, my parents were very humble, they were shop assistants. I was born in London during the Second World War, and my playground down the road was where bombs had fallen, on the bomb site. We played football in the street, and about the age of 7 or 8 I started, I suppose, fending for myself, creating my own pocket money by working on a milk round. By my mid-teens I was running a stall in the weekend markets, and that really got me started to breaking out of the routine that my family naturally accepted. The class limitations and so forth meant that they didn't aspire to be more than, basically clerical or retail staff people. And they saw the same for me. So I was breaking out of that routine, which hence saw me travel to Africa and then to Australia. But if you're in that situation where you're probably locked in, most people in business really just buried on the day-to-day. Franchising is a way to help you get out of it, because the statistics are quite scary. In Australia, the average number of hours worked by people in business is 49. Doesn't leave a lot of time for the golf course or the family. And of the 2 million businesses in Australia, statistics show us quite clearly 40% will not be operating in 5 years' time. Added to that, the fact that around 90% of those business owners are not going to have more than the basic equivalent to the Centrelink pension. They're going to be living on $30,000 a year. Not very much to get by on when you think about it. And why is this a problem? Well, the truth is it's going to deteriorate because Australia cannot afford to pay the increasing number of people who are going to be eligible for pensions. And currently in Australia, our community support systems through Centrelink, they basically cost this country twice the percentage of the OECD average, and about twice what they have in the EU. unsustainable. So you've got to take care of these things yourself. So I guess what I'm saying is, if franchising can work for you, let's have a look and see how we can use it to open the door to your dreams, how you can get some really good committed people working for you, and how maybe you can create some time for yourself and the opportunity to build some wealth so you can retire in comfort. The system I've developed, basically, I guarantee you can franchise your business in 90 days. So that in 3 months, you'll be ready to put on your first pilot franchise. And you can do it in a way where you reduce the risks, you make it pretty straightforward, and you save yourself tens of thousands of dollars. Because the truth is, franchising is simple. Anyone can do it, and it works. An example of this, let me give you one, is Jack Cowan. Jack Cowan, very few people know of, or have heard of even, but he is one of the wealthiest private business owners in Australia. He came to Australia from Canada in his mid-20s, and he'd bought the rights for Western Australia for Kentucky Fried Chicken. He soon grew that group successfully and realised there was more scope. So he looked around the United States, and he approached Burger King. And he brought Burger King to Australia. He renamed it Hungry Jack's, so you know who I'm talking about. Today, BRW magazine, and a recent edition, put his wealth at $940 million. A year ago it was $680 million. Enormous wealth growth in 1 year through franchising. And he's used franchising not just with Kentucky Fried Chicken, not just with Hungry Jack's, but also as a major investor in Boost Juice. He's systemised the Sydney Bridge climb, quite an experiencing system. So he's using the franchise concept in everything he does. And there are other organisations he's behind as well. A private individual has done it very well just using the concept of franchising. Is your business franchisable? Good question to ask. That's probably why you're watching this video. What I'd like you to do is just to write down and go to my website if you're not there already. There's a 4-minute test on the homepage that's called Is Your Business Franchisable? Just complete that questionnaire and I'll reflect on it and send you a report with a lot more information to get you started and to help you decide if franchising is for you or not. So let's look at some of the pros and cons of franchising. There are some great advantages, and I'll share 7 of these with you right now. The first is you attract working capital, because what you're doing every time you recruit a franchisee, sell a franchise, you're getting the initial franchise fee. That in its main is a return for you for your investment and the risk you've taken. And most of that will be money that will go to your bottom line. So it can be distributed, it can be invested in the business to increase plant, equipment, stock. It can be used to pay off your mortgage. It can be put into your super fund. If you don't grow your business as a conventional business, you've got to find capital. So it's exactly the opposite. As far as that's concerned, it's a drain on your assets. The second point that's really important is most franchise groups you'll find, because they're systemised and they're organised, they've got branding, will attract good people. Not just franchisees that respect a system, but staff, people in your team, people who want to be seen and identified with a group that they admire. And then leverage, that gives you the opportunity to be able to leverage yourself out of the business, so you're spending your time working on the business. So working on the big picture is my 4th key large advantage a franchisor has. And if you're doing that, then that's giving the opportunity, a bigger picture, a growing organisation. We're on to number 5, which is group buying power. You're able to leverage with your suppliers the prices you pay for the products and the services you get. You'd be amazed how much you can get significant discounts and other arrangements from them, getting them supporting you and even getting them paying for your marketing for you. And then number 6, through this whole process, you're building your brand. Building your brand means you're building the value of your business, so you're creating your asset. This is the key objective of what you're endeavouring to do by growing a franchise, is increasing your wealth. And by growing the brand and growing it as a franchise group, you've now got a significant number of exit strategies. So the 7th benefit is you've got a range of exit strategies. Conventionally, with your business today, you probably can sell it to a conventional business investor, business buyer. Franchising is going through a transition. We're following the pattern that's been happening for the last decade in the US, where there's a lot of consolidation. So there's a very good chance your business may be of interest to another franchise group that wants to consolidate, to grow their market by acquiring your brand, whether they're in the same field or a complementary field. It's happening regularly now. So that's one area. Then you've got investment bankers are interested in franchising because the margins are good, the systems are there, very easy to operate. Also, some of the super funds are having a look around. I know of people who are talking to super funds about selling their franchise groups into them. And then franchisees. Not unusual to see franchisees band together and buy out a franchise group. It happens from time to time. And also, the last factor is a management buyout, where people who are in your management team decide to buy you out. Something you may sponsor or they may decide to approach you. And of course, the last one I haven't mentioned is going to an IPO or floating your business as a public company where you get the shares on the stock market. So when you've got all those range of options and you've got demand, can you appreciate, just like selling a house, it's supply and demand. The more people you've got there, the higher the value. So you'll see the opportunity of some significant value, increase in the value of your business. Of course, it's not just all advantages. Some people perceive there are a number of disadvantages, and some of that involves a bit of work and commitment. The first is, if you're a franchisor, what you're going to do is lose some of your autonomy. You can't chop and change as you wish. You've got to follow a pattern because you've got commitments. The second point is a disadvantage, you're going to be scrutinised. Your franchisees are going to be looking at you and saying, you know, how are you doing things? Are you a good example? Are you someone to lead the group? Are you doing what you're committed to doing under the terms of your franchise agreement and under the understanding, the general understanding between a business partnership, a business relationship such as you're in? You also have to systemise and document your business, and this a lot of people see as the biggest hurdle. Frankly, it isn't, but that's the perception that people have. I can show you how you can systemise your business and document it very, very easily. It's a matter of keeping it simple. It's not necessarily easy, but step by step it can be done. But people perceive this as being daunting, and I meet many people who never get around to franchising because of that one aspect. And the fourth one, of course, is in going through those other three key areas, what you've got to do is spend some time. You've got to spend some time putting your manuals together, getting your documentation sorted and so on, and getting your training systems in place. But it's not a large investment when you compare what your return can be. There's some key responsibilities you need to understand as a franchisor that I believe most passionately you need to adopt. One is you need to look after the overall group marketing. Do as much of it as you possibly can. Do not leave it to your franchisees. Sure, they can do some local area marketing, but you must be the dependable. You must be the one that maintains the integrity of the brand. And then you need to undertake research and development, looking at the future. New systems, new processes, new products, new directions, innovations and so on. Training is an important area, the third big responsibility you have. You must train properly. But training doesn't stop at the end of your training session. No question about it. It's ongoing, which is why the fifth element of your responsibility is, without any question, support. You have to build and grow and maintain a great relationship with your franchisees so you can anticipate in advance when they need help and assistance. Because the more successful they are, what do you know? The more successful you are. And the system that I use and developed with my partners many years ago and still stick by right to this moment is the 4D's. The first one is you've got to develop the business concept. Then you've got to define it, so you're starting to get an understanding of the framework. Then you design it, which means documenting, going through that process, and then you really get out there and deploy. You're in the fourth D, deploy the business. And I'll run through those in a little bit of detail. But if you follow this process when you set your business up, you'll be surprised just how straightforward it is. It takes away those intimidations, makes it a far less scary exercise, and you've got a very high success rate that you can anticipate if you do it properly. Because the fact is, franchising is simple. Anyone can do it, and it works. So let's run through those 4Ds. The first one, develop. In the development aspect, you've got to learn about franchising. You've got to assess the project you've got. What's the program you undertake? What's the task involved? You look at marketing, look at organisation. I'll just touch on marketing a little bit now. We haven't got time to go into too much, but marketing is an area a lot of people get seriously wrong. They just don't understand the importance of it. It's critically important. Marketing drives the success of your business. And in a franchise group, it's essential to make sure everybody knows what their responsibility is for marketing. What are your franchisees' roles? When you look at marketing, you're going to develop a marketing plan that's coherent. That means starting off with a strategy. a strategy at the moment for your product, for your customer as they are today. And around that strategy, you then build your brand. So it's the identification of the business. And then, of course, you create an advertising plan to get out and schedule the promotion of your business to attract customers and so on. In a franchise, it's pretty much a sort of parallel situation. You've got your market strategy, you've got to create one for recruiting franchisees as opposed to recruiting customers. You've got to use the same branding that you've got, the same essential package as far as your business is concerned, and then the next step is you've got to put a promotion plan together. That's a promotion for advertising and recruiting franchisees. Through this whole process, marketing is so important because you're going to have an instantly recognisable brand and you must maintain the integrity. An example of a client I worked with was Shannon Daniels. Shannon lives in Perth. He's got a business called Triumph Property Services. He came to me to go through the process. He wasn't even sure if he wanted a franchise, but he knew he wanted to systemise and improve his business. And you know, within 6 months, he told me quite clearly that he grew that business by 48%.